Do not come. Do not come.
I'm gonna come.
Bum, bum, ba-da-ba-da-ba-da-bum. 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 30 seconds remaining. Ba-da-ba-da-bum. Ba-da-ba-da-bum. Ba-dum. Ba-da-ba-da. Ba-da-ba-da-ba-da-ba-da-ba-da-bum. And here we go. Hello, everyone. This is Rolo, the Puerto Rican Pistolero, coming to you live from the Puerto Rican Pistolero studios, or the Candunguero studios, I guess is what we should call it, here in beautiful Miami, Florida. This will be, I'm going to be kind of winging it on this show. Unfortunately, I got the news that my great aunt Luz passed away less than 2 hours ago. So not something that we were expecting. It just kind of happened fast. It was actually her birthday today. And so, she's in a better place. She's not suffering, but I still wanted to do a show, but be kind of winging it. I'll be talking about the Fallout Range Day that we had yesterday, and prayers for my mom, my grandmother, and my other aunt, and their family throughout all of this. It can be difficult, but I know that Aunt Luce is with God now, and she's not suffering, and that's some solace that we can take. She was a woman of God, so that's she's in a better place, and that's. Unfortunately, life when you, as you start getting older, these things start happening more often. So my grandparents died a few years ago, each one. And, unfortunately, that's, what happens. So all you can do is have faith and pray and try to keep yourself as healthy as possible. Watch for things. And, sometimes the little things are what make a difference, and how long we're on this world, but that's what we got. So I'm going to talk about the Fallout Range Day. I because I'm going to kind of ad-lib it. I didn't really have a chance with everything going on to really do the research I usually do. I usually do really hardcore prep 2 or 3 hours before the show. So I'm going to edit this footage eventually, probably this week, and come out with it in a few days with more stuff. Yeah, let's say hello to everybody. Sorry, I'm a little bit out of it here right now. So, but let's see. We got everybody in the chat. We got Comic Misconceptions with the first message, as is usual. Comic Misconceptions gets it about 95% of the time. The Wayfarer, Willie, watching Scooby-Doo, I see. Always a classic. The mod extraordinaire, Carla. Good to see you, Carla. Always a pleasure to have you here. We're going to talk a little bit about Dan, actually. So Dan was the catalyst for something I already had a concern about, the global war in the West. I mean, yeah, I guess Brazil still counts as the West. It's in the Western Hemisphere on free speech. So that's going to be kind of the big political topic today. Greg the Goblin for $20, dropping it down always. Thank you, Ad Victorium, for the $5 as well. You guys are awesome. I appreciate you both. We got 20 people watching. You guys are awesome. We're also live on Rumble and Kick. Should be live there. Herschel's Leg, thank you so much on Kick. I appreciate you for the condolences. You guys are the best. So we're going to talk about the global war on free speech, and we'll talk a little bit. If we get to it, we'll talk a little bit about Stellar Blade. Like I said, it'll be kind of a free for all episode. You guys can ask me questions about some of the videos that we're going to watch here. But for those of you that don't know, yesterday we were having a range day down here in Miami. It was thrown by my good friend Eric, the founder and owner of Cheating Death Custom Guns. So it was at Andy's training range in Miami Lakes. So it's a fairly small range, only 6 lanes, but it's got a gun shop and a police supply store. So if you're a big Ready or Not fan, it's actually a pretty awesome place. They got a lot of good gear. All the guys that worked there were awesome. We had a great time. Had about a dozen people roll on through. So not too big. It's the first time that we've done this. Next time we'll hopefully have more. But with the venue, it worked out really well, and everybody got to shoot a lot. The first hour we were there, I brought Commander and my younger brother. So if you guys have been watching the gaming streams here, you know that he's always there. And he's on Geeks and Gamers Tabletop on Thursday nights. So he was there. Got to take him to a gun event for the first time. So yeah, I think you guys will enjoy it. This is all raw, so no like commentary or intro or anything like that. We're going to kind of start, and I'll skip around a little bit just not bore you guys. I will have music in the background, so it'll almost be like it is an edited video. But pretty much what the whole purpose of this was, Eric is a huge fan of the Fallout game series. He actually got into it. I'm not sure if this is in one of the videos, because we had a few segments where he talked about his inspiration for a few of the rifles that you're going to see here. So I don't remember if this was on camera or if it was just one of the conversations we had. We were there for about 4 or 5 hours yesterday, and it was he was describing that one day he was just in his house, and then he started hearing some of the Fallout soundtrack coming from the living room, and he saw that his son was playing the game. He's like, "What is this game?" And he's like, "Oh yeah, this Fallout." He was playing New Vegas, and so he kind of started watching him. He loved the music and the entire aesthetic and the backstory of Fallout and the post-apocalyptic world that they're in, and the guns that they used. A lot of the guns in the Fallout series are based on real guns. They've got some crazier ones, especially in Fallout 4, but a lot of them are based on the guns that we have today. So inspired by that, and his son's kind of telling him that he runs a custom gun shop, really specializing in 1911s. They're like, "Hey, why don't you do some Fallout inspired guns?" So he did the 1911 from a New Vegas first. I believe that was one of the first guns that he did, and then from there he moved on to some of the carbines from the New California Republic kind of military, so the NCR. And so he's been doing it for a few years. He's collaborated with my good friend Peter Wakeham from Carolina Custom Foam, and he makes some of the best gun cases from just the best gun cases from an artistic perspective that you're going to find. I showed off some of his work. If you guys saw, we did a Fallout video almost 2 years ago now. It's not on the channel anymore, but you can find it on Eric's page with that original collaboration that he and Pete did. And it was fantastic. So he's at the point where he's got multiple rifles now. Let me share the screen over here, and we'll go to IG. So just going through here, this is in the gun shop. He started with one of the earlier guns that he did too was the SA-35. Well, this is a Browning high power. This is Springfield's version, which is the SA-35. It was, I believe, the 9mm in New Vegas was a high power. So it's got this atomic ash plus a bronze finish. It looks so much better in person than these photos can portray. It's just such a deep. It's like a rusted bluing, and it's so nice. And the fit and finish of these guns, the effort that Eric and his guys go through is incredible. It's just so. If you've ever held certain 1911s or hammer fired weapons before, handguns, they've got a little bit of slop to them. So you shake them, and the metal kind of rattles and all that stuff. Sometimes it's good to not have tight tolerances. If sand and stuff gets in your gun, it'll like fall out. So that's okay in the military weapon. But with a custom fitted weapon, you really want it to feel like a sewing machine, bulletproof, so to speak, to use the pun. So these guns feel fantastic. The fit and finish is great. This is the I believe the Mercenary carbine or carbine, one of the newer ones, and it's actually chambered in 6.5 Grendel, which is this round here, which is a round I'd heard of. I've never seen it before. I've never shot it before. And it was really fascinating because it's Arleon. 1911s are great. I think that they're fantastic. There's a reason why they still stand the test of time. One of my favorite pistols is my Ruger SR 1911. It's a 9mm, and it's in a commander weight or commander size, so it's a 4.5-inch barrel, and it's just such a sweet shooter. Even with just a regular like 3-dot Novak sights, like I'd shoot that gun better than any other pistol that I have, except for maybe now the Shadow Systems with the red dot on it, but that's cheating. So with irons, I almost shoot as good. And it's just the ergonomics of the 1911. It doesn't mean that they're the best, most practical guns, but sometimes, and this is why 2011s, like the Staccato, become so popular. So, excuse me. For those of you that aren't familiar, the 2011 is a modernized 1911. So what is a 1911 in the first place? I guess we should look that up. So you'll know it when you see it. It's your standard handgun since World War II, really. The standard sidearm that we see everywhere. There's your Colt 45 as we've seen it. It really hasn't changed. Modern ones don't look really any different at all. But a 2011 is going to, it's going to be double stacked. It's going to be nicer. So you can see it modernized. You can put optics on it at the top. It can carry, 18, 20 rounds instead of 10 or 7 in the case of a 45 ACP 1911. So it's modernized. It's great. There's a reason why these are popular, and some police organizations, departments carry them because you can't miss. I've shot Staccatos before. I've been fortunate enough to do so. It's a $3,000, $3,000 to $4,000 pistol, depending on which one you get, and it shoots like a $3,000 or $4,000 pistol. And so you can see the finish here. I would say the finish on Eric's high power is just as good as a Staccato. It just really feels that tight, and it shoots so nicely. Obviously, that high power is more of a classic pistol. This is, kind of a tactical competition, competition gun. So this gives you the best of both worlds. So you get the shooting dynamics of a 1911 with the capacity of a modern striker fired pistol like a Glock. So they are much heavier though. They're, sometimes more than twice as heavy as a Glock. So that's something to take into consideration for your belts and your clothing and things like that. But hey, if you can carry it and you can afford it, this is pretty badass. And one of my favorite pistols of all time, and definitely one of the best pistols I've ever shot. So but getting back on track here. So this is the 6.5 Grendel. This is a really unique round because I've shot 6.5 Creedmoor before, which 6.5 Creedmoor is this puppy right here. So we got your 223. So your regular, actually this is a 5.56 AR. You know what most ARs shoot. This is a 6.5 Creedmoor, which would be more of a precision or hunting round. This is a hunting round right here. So imagine that you're taking this bullet, which you can see is significantly larger than the 5.56 bullet, and you're putting it in a cartridge that is the size of a 5.56. So essentially you've taken it this way and you made it the same size. So that's what the 6.5 Grendel is essentially. So you're going to, you can see it right there. It's that big bullet that's got a high ballistic coefficient. It's got a lot of weight behind it. And it's been put into a 7.62 by 39 cartridge, I believe, or brass. So AK brass. There you go. Now you got a cool round that can go up to 1,000 yards. And it will go in AR-15 magazines, depending on the bullet that you've got. And you just swap out your barrel on your AR-15. Pretty sweet. So that's what you got. So that's what this puppy shoots. The recoil wasn't bad. It's nothing compared to a 308. It really feels like being fired out of a 16-inch AR-15 barrel. It felt like shooting out of my Mark 18, like a short barrel AR. So you'll kind of see that with the recoil. It's more than a regular AR-15 for sure, but I mean, we had a first-time shooter here. It was the first time that she's ever shot a gun, and this was the gun that she shot first, and she was hooked. So, I mean, that kind of tells you that it's not a big deal at all. So let's get to some of the videos. I've been talking too much, and let's just get the party started here. So this is Eric over here. We're in the shop. He's going to talk a little bit about the mercenary carbine here and give you a little bit of the backstory.
6.5.
That's pretty awesome.
And so he sourced out Alexander Arms barrel double.
Okay.
And it came with the fixed front sight post, right?
Okay.
With the A2 style. Because at first we were like, well, that's kind of retro, right? That's kind of Fallout-ish retro. And we kind of put it together. We sat back, we looked at it, and we said, no, this needs to go to the Fallout bench. So let's start throwing around ideas. So we started thinking key mod, something a little bit more like retro mod. And then I said, dude, what if we get like the old cheese grate or one? And he goes, yeah, bro, I've seen that before. It's sick. Let's go. So he actually sourced out. He was able to find the Quadrille.
That's awesome.
Midwest Industries, right? Because they either only had the small one or they had the long one.
Yep.
And he stayed with it, and he found that.
What is this one, a 13?
That's a 13-inch, yeah. And so then we go, okay, great. Now we're going somewhere. Right? So then we were going to camouflage with the same pattern.
Yeah.
We were going to camouflage a stocking grid and we had from the Brownells kits.
Okay.
And my buddy Robert from Instagram hits me up and he goes, bro, let me send you some pictures of stuff.
Uh-huh.
How many do you have? He goes, I got like 20. Wow. I go, send me 10 sets right now. So he goes, dude, I go, no, Robert, you don't understand. The rattier, the better.
The better, yeah.
Like pick the worst one.
Risk it. And this is me
fair.
without having a haircut for like 6 weeks or more, almost 2 months. I actually need a haircut.
Oh, dude,
Thanks.
that's really
Thanks,
I
Riz.
can't believe how light it is. It really feels very light. Here, check it out.
So then we said, okay, we got to.
There's Commander and Appearance.
This like DMR sniper vibe, right?
Yeah.
So we started going to gun shows.
Yeah.
And we said, that looks cool. That looks cool.
It does.
So, I mean, it's dude, they're like cheap. You can tell they're not quality, but they have the look.
Oh, yeah.
And in any case, when the rifles go out, when the carbines go out, they're going to go out optic ready. So you can install whatever bipod or not. You can whatever sight you want, or you can just throw iron, backup irons on it. You can build it however you want.
Yeah, I definitely like
Sweet.
how
That's for sure.
I like how this rifle. Just to look at this rifle, and you know, the optic, they just threw it on there just to have something that's like dented and all this stuff. They just wanted something quick and dirty. But yeah, it looks good, and I'm all about the quad rail now. Ever since I got my Mark 18, they just feel so solid in the hand. And for some reason, this rifle looks like it would be heavy, but it feels really light. I don't know how much it weighs, but it felt really light. Maybe I've just been lifting more lately. I don't know, because every rifle feels a little bit lighter. But the 308 that I have, the M110, the Saber, feels way heavier than this thing. It's crazy. So yeah, it's just a good looking rifle. I love the fixed stock. Big fan of that. Obviously, if you're not that tall, might be an issue, but I believe that the A1 stock, so if you know the evolution of the AR-15 becoming the M16, the A1 had a shorter stock than the A2 that came after it. So I believe this is an A1 stock. So it was pretty comfortable. I mean, I'm not the biggest guy, I'm 5'9", but you know, for you know, smaller people, the fixed stock can be an issue, but I don't think it was a big deal. Commander's a little bit shorter than I am, and he didn't seem to have an issue. So, hey, Zeltroy, what's up, my man? Congratulations on being a father soon, in the next few months. But yeah, so that looks really cool. I love the vibe of the rifle here.
But it had to be its own thing, right? So we figured, okay, they're kind of like,
So yeah, Eric has been selling these rifles as kind of like limited editions, and usually only makes runs of 10. Now, kind of the plan, and he mentions it here, is he's also going to sell build kits. So you kind of get your part selection, you get a menu, and then you choose the parts. Now, you're going to get the kits based on the specs that they have. So, I mean, you could put your own parts in later, but the ones he's going to sell are going to be spec'd out the way that they think is best. Just because they want the rifles to run as great as possible. But they'll have recommendations, you know, for some of them. This one, you'll have more options here.
we're giving you the heart of the rifle. Okay, so you're already gonna have like I really like the enhanced buffer tube from Aero Precision or from Geissele. So
I use Geissele personally. It's been great. I just got them.
The B5 retro stock.
Yep.
Freaking awesome. CMMG lower parts kit. 3.5 pound trigger. So
Eric is going to be gracious enough to let me put one of these together, and we're going to film it so you guys can kind of see the process of what it's like. That probably won't be on YouTube. You can't post those kinds of videos on YouTube, but we'll have it on Rumble and probably on IG or other platforms. I got to get the Patreon going again. I had one for Locked and Loaded Latinos. Maybe I got to repurpose that one just to avoid YouTube's tax, and then we can post content like that there on the Patreon as well to kind of circumvent the YouTube algorithm. But yeah, I'm gonna put one of these together so you guys can see the process of it, and then we'll shoot it. And yeah, it should be pretty cool. I love the paint job on this one. You can't tell. It almost has a 3D effect. Eric's guy that does their Cerakoting jobs, it's almost got shading and shadowing on it that you can really see around the mag well that gives it just a 3D texture, and I really love how it looks. It looks
you have
awesome.
the options. Do I want a thin barrel? Do I want a heavy barrel? Do I want to make it a 20-inch barrel, 18-inch barrel, 16-inch barrel? Do you want to go the SBR? That's going to be all up to you. Also, the bolt carrier group, we're going to offer 3 different options. They're all quality bolt carrier groups, so you get to choose. Do you want phosphate? Do you want nickel boron? Or do you want chrome? Whatever look you want. So these are the 3 options. And then, of course, people love their flash hiders. They want to choose their muzzle device. So this is your end. Now it's going to come with a matched handguard, right? The old
Yeah, so you can kind of see it
you can put
here. It's just got this really nice shading. I don't know. He did a great job. I think it looks awesome. I really love the Cerakoting paint jobs that Eric and Cheating Death Customs choose. I think they come out really awesome. Love their logo with the spade and the skull.
Whatever you want to put, Hemlock. That's on you.
Awesome stuff.
You get to choose which one. And not that we're telling people to buy Midwest Industries or B5, but those are the ones that we've used through the years that work really, really, really well.
I want to point out. Well, let me see that.
Okay, so
In the background, this is a Gen 2 Beretta 1301, and it looks awesome. I really want to shoot the shotgun. So this is the more expensive version of the shotgun that I have. I have an A300. Now the A300 did have some improvements, mainly the furniture, right here. So the handguard, much better than the original 1301 handguard. So it looks like they took that handguard from the A300 and put it on the Gen 2s. And I really like this FDE in the barrel. That's a badass shotgun that they're selling there. All right, so now we're finally going to get into the action.
Right,
here.
this
We're
is
in the range.
Rolo. I am at Andy's range. I got Commander Ent with me. We're about to shoot the mercenary carbine for the first time here. It is the 6.5 Grendel. It should be pretty sweet. So we're gonna get our first shots on that. We're gonna watch Eric try it out here. Haven't shot a 6.5 Grendel before, so I'm interested to see how the recoil impulse is on it.
it's a lot of fun.
So yeah, well, let's skip here a little bit. It's got a blast. It's like an SBR indoors, I would say. So it's definitely more potent than a regular 5.56. Got our jazzy music, Fallout fashion. Woo! Yeah, watch out if you're wearing headphones. It might be loud.
I can't see. Can you see where it is?
All right.
So pretty cool.
At the heart, by the way.
You ready to meet at the heart?
I was aiming at the heart.
All right.
Of course, I'm a lefty. I'm a lefty, everybody. So I'm the weird one over here. I usually get gassed in the face, but that wasn't bad.
That's not bad at all. All right, who's up next?
I'll take it.
Here. Safety is on. Remember your righty. All right, we're gonna get Commander.
So they're with a body armor company, actually, and I don't know if we got it filmed. Those two that you saw, their body armor is amazing. They've got like level 4 ceramic body armor that barely weighs anything, and it's pretty flexible.
Okay, don't worry, we got more ammo.
There you go. You got one shot at least.
So everybody started shooting it. It definitely shoots some fireballs. That is pretty cool. So I think everybody kind of starts going through it. Okay, so this is she's a first-time shooter, so never shot a gun in her life before, and that just tells you that this 6.5 Grendel really isn't bad at all. So push her back a little bit, but there you go. So there you go. Another satisfied new
There you
shooter.
go. Nice. On the gram, man. On the gram.
So always good to see somebody shoot for the first time. And that was a good day because I brought, not only did Eric have obviously all of his Fallout guns, we kind of wanted to take the opportunity because Eric and I kind of have an idea of something that we want to do in the future. It was his idea that he wants to bring me on, but really bring in new shooters and things like that. And so I brought a lot of guns that I would want to introduce people, first time shooters to have some fun. So you'll see kind of some of the guns that I brought out. The only one I can't believe that we didn't film the MP5. I can't believe it. Oh, that's terrible. So I got a trained commander to be a cameraman here. We kind of were winging it and having fun. That's my biggest problem when I go to gun events and why I'm a terrible YouTuber. I enjoy having fun so much. And in the past, I'm always like, I'm the technical guy running all the equipment, setting up all the cameras, and I'm the host at the same time. So it's been really difficult to kind of get rid of those responsibilities and not do everything. So yeah, everybody's shooting it. They're having a good time with it. And then this is actually the Mark 18. I brought it out because I kind of wanted to compare it because I was like, the recoil on the Grendel is definitely more than a regular.
I want to see how far, what the legs are on that.
Yeah, because 6.5 Grendel is supposed to go out to 1,000 yards, which is pretty crazy. So Commander shoots the Mark 18, I believe here. Yeah, here we go.
That's good. That's all right. Bolt's already forward.
Yeah, of course, I messed him up here. He had to charge it. He was right.
You rack it.
So that's the Mark 18 that, I showed you guys that I built recently. And it's a lot of fun to shoot. I love it. But yeah, you can definitely see that it's got, I would say that the recoil is similar to that Grendel there. There you go. Commander did a good job there. Better than Jeremy that one time. No chicken wing there, even though he chicken wings a little bit later on. Let him do it. He did a good job there. So this is the one that you guys saw. I showed off a few weeks ago.
So this is our version of the NCR service rifle. So
Commander is a huge Fallout fan too. He's even bigger than I am.
we came out with the original R9, what we call the R9 service rifle, desert panel camo, which was our idea of, okay, you're in the NCR, you're part of the, let's say there's special forces, long range reconnaissance units, if they would have existed, right, in that universe. What would our service rifle look like? So we went ahead and we took some inspiration from the Gobi campaign downloadable content, and we made our own desert pattern, and we applied it to the entire rifle. But since then,
It shoots so nice, our Leon.
Fallout team,
The 20-inch. I would want one like this. You can buy this upper, obviously not how Eric has it done, but it'll be like silver with the black furniture for like $900 on Brownells, and it's great. Oh man, just drop it on your lower. Obviously, I would want the fixed stock too if you want to build a full rifle, but
I was still trying to avoid doing the regular wood with the burned wood. I wanted something unique that was still recognizable, but like have the little cheating death DNA on it. So I started researching videos online and pictures online of retro AR-15s, and I saw these beautiful pictures of the very first prototype AR-15s from Armalite, and they had Bakelite furniture on it. And I said, dude, you can't get any more retro cool than that.
Absolutely.
The thing is, they don't make it anymore. They don't make Bakelite.
yeah, it looks awesome, doesn't it, Carla? Yeah, it's a beautiful rifle.
So
Yeah, there you go. You guys are loving it. Yeah, this rifle is great, and look how thin it is. It really is.
found a couple of really
It's so light. It shoots so well because it's got the 20-inch barrel.
we did it
Super smooth.
times, and it looked really nice, but it looked a little bit too pretty. So we said, okay, how do we make it? How does
music's weird.
Bakelite look when it's warm, when it's old? We couldn't find anything. So I said, okay, what if we gave it some like an effect where it's been exposed to a lot of heat? So how would plastic look when it exposes? So I don't know if your camera's going to be able to pick up on it, but if you look at it, you could see like you have like a little crinkling effect, and that took forever to get it right.
I can imagine.
Because it was either too much or too little. And so if you can look at it, you could see like the little cracking.
Yeah, it almost looks like leather. Yeah.
Right? Yeah, like it's worn. And once we got it right, I said, okay, perfect. The stock came out a lot better than the handguard, but that would be correct because not everything wears and
And your handguard's gonna be exposed to the heat of the barrel too. So
exactly. So we figured, okay, that was That was it. And then when we got the upper and the lower, of course they matched a little bit too perfectly.
Yeah.
So we said that wouldn't be right because, of course, you know, in the universe you would have to, in that Fallout universe, you
That's
would have
absolutely true,
to
Arleon.
from
Take
left-
what you can
right?
get.
Exactly. So the fact that an upper and a lower would match perfectly wasn't right.
I love to
Start distressing.
not having the
This was
forward assist.
like
It actually looks
beautiful
really nice.
gray, and so was this. And I said, no, okay, we got to find a way not to distress it because I didn't want the scratches, but I wanted it to look like, okay, somebody in an NCR arms room went, okay, we have an upper, we have a lower. They fit. Okay, let's put them together. Okay, good. You know, good enough. They weren't caring whether the upper and the lower matched.
Yeah, Arleon said right now is the time for A1 and A2 builds. The uppers were scarce in the last 10 to 15 years or so. Now retro clones are in vogue and the uppers are easier to source. Yeah, H&R from Palmetto State Armory makes some good ones, and I think Brownells are probably the best ones right now. But H&R's makes really good ones now.
And of course,
Yeah.
no forward assist.
No forward assist. The triangular freaking charging handle. I mean,
It looks so
there's
it looks so
601
good.
uppers.
It really you know it's crazy that
You didn't have to.
this gun was designed in the 1950s, and you can really see here the retro future look. Like in some ways, despite not having any optics or anything like that, it almost does look futuristic. You could see like if this thing was entirely silver or all white, like it would look kind of futuristic. And it's crazy because it's such an old and classic rifle. We've seen M16s for decades in media and in video games, but it still holds up. It's crazy because it's just been there, and I kind of go into it after I shoot it a little bit in that.
The headaches that we went through at first with the original rifle in 2021 to find all the parts was a headache. Like, you can get this.
Yeah.
This charging, it was always out of stock. The lower, it was out of stock. The upper, out of stock. Now, thank God, Brownells came back and offer the complete 601 upper. So you don't have to worry about sourcing anything. The barrel's there, the charging handle's there, the chrome bolt carrier group is there, you know, the right rifle barrel, the profile is there. So just makes life a lot easier. And of course, their retro furniture, line furniture is perfect. You know, for this, because now you're not feeling guilty taking one of those really nice, salty, original A1 stocks and doing this to it.
Commander's chicken winging it there a little bit, but in his defense, that's appropriate for shooting an A1 because back in the day, you'd choke it up and have a little bit of a chicken wing there. Now me, I do this modern C-clamp, and it does feel weird to shoot a classic rifle in the modern way.
Here's more.
That really deflects the brass too.
I love loading AR magazines too. I don't know what there is about it. It's a very satisfying thing to do. It sounds.
Black or white? Black one over there. You guys, I have a black one out there with George. Do you guys want black or white shirt?
I'll take black.
Black?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
so black.
Yeah, Plex.
You have the
Medium
switch
and
up?
medium.
I gotta check with the black one. Okay.
Cool.
Appreciate it, bro.
Yeah, it's an awesome rifle. I love it. You guys have seen me on IG on the videos that Eric has posted, and I reposted on X. And you guys know how much I adore this rifle. I really do like it. You know, going from tip to butt, I do like the short 3-prong flash hider here. And you know, there's nothing like the fixed front sight post as well. I've always liked the front sight block that way with the bayonet lug and the classic thin A1 handguard. That's really like, people don't understand how ergonomic this rifle was when it first came out, and this is kind of why the AR-15 platform has lasted for, since the late 50s at this point, and it's taken so long for militaries around the world to, switch over from this design because it's so. I mean, look at the example. You have this, which even though Eric has obviously modified it a bit, it's still the same gun as this, which would be, your more modern iteration of that. So you can see the design has evolved, but it really hasn't changed because this rifle, as it was created by Eugene Stoner, really is just one of the most enduring designs, firearm designs in history. And that's why it's going to be around for another 50 years. So it's awesome stuff.
Hey, that music synced up there. That was pretty
This one, we
good.
got to go back to 2021. Actually, 2020. When the idea first started coming around of us getting involved with the Fallout ARs. We had recently finished the very first
right. Yeah, I know. I'm a Southpaw Rain man.
limited run of 1911s. Fallout New Vegas inspired. And we had just finished also our very one and only AK, one of Fallout inspired AK builds.
Chinese assault rifle.
Right. Oh yeah, it was really cool. It had like the freaking Chinese flag and a bunch of freaking kill. It was awesome. And they said, well, we need to do a carbine, an assault carbine like the one in the game. And I was like, I don't know, man. It's basically just grab a car 15, distress it, and there you go. There's nothing to it. So fast forward to, like I said, like around late 2020. And a couple of friends of mine said, hey, listen, my kid is already, 19, 20. He wants to get into ARs. He wants to get into rifles.
Love the muzzle device on
built
this
his
thing.
first AR, and there's some issues with it. Do you mind taking a look at it? So we did, and thank God it didn't shoot because there was a lot of dangerous issues with the rifles. So we had an opportunity to use that as a springboard for a project. These guys were heavily into Fallout. They're like, dude, we've been trying to get you to do a Fallout rifle build for such a long time. This would be a great opportunity. You can teach the kids how to do it properly and safely and let them build something that they love to do. So my only thing was, okay, as long as we're not copying something that you guys have to come up with something yourself.
Yeah.
So they knew that it was going to be a carbine, and that's it. So they did their own research, and funny enough, they fell in love with the XM77, like the Vietnam era. I don't know if you've seen pictures of them with the Vietnam era Navy SEALs and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And actually, let me go back. The first one they wanted to build was a Commando. But I said, guys, that's going to be, you're going to need an SPR in it, you're going to need or a pistol brace, and I don't know if you want to go down that route. So they said, well, here's the other one that we're looking at. I go, dude, I love the XM77. All right, good. We'll build that one. So we actually contacted a company that has since retired. They shut down. And they were a local Florida company, and they agreed to do 10 low receivers just for us. And this is the very first one. That's why it'll never be sold. It's got the serial number is the date of my retirement from the police department.
Oh, wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, CDC Cheating Death Customs, May of 2015. So, unfortunately, after they built this one, the guy called me and says, "Hey, by the way, dude, I'm tired. I want to retire. I'm moving." So we said, "Okay, well, there goes that." But that's when we decided, okay, the NCR has a recon platoon. The guys are in the motor pool. They're going to camo their carbines. How would they do it? Mm-hmm. And so we came up with this. Again, the inspiration was the Gobi campaign, downloadable content, and I sat down at the table, started drawing patterns, and
That's
had
cool.
the vector, had them cut up the vinyl, and we sprayed it, and then of course we did the distressing and And of course, again, being like in the fallout bench, well, my stock broke, Sarge. Well, grab one from over there. So then we made it a point for the stock not to match the rest of the way that was kind of a thing because it is. It's falling. But the same thing, Ronell's back when you get
That's awesome, right, man? I've not been to Vieques. I've been to Culebra,
the furniture all from Ronell's.
and it was amazing. It's beautiful. I'd love to go back. Swam with sea turtles and snorkeled in the reefs, kayaked out there.
muzzle device?
This actually, we found a good friend of mine in Maryland found the barrel in their spare parts kit. And he goes, Eric, we don't know where it came from. Research later. So if this is from an old Bushmaster rifle.
Okay, wow.
Yeah, from an old Bushmaster rifle. And he goes, because I don't know where else we could find these flash suppressors. I can't find any of them. But I believe I have a barrel in the spare parts bin that has that already on it. I go, dude, send me the invoice, send it. You know, so he hooked it up.
Yeah, that is really cool.
Yeah, he hooked it up. Project back on the pin board.
Yeah.
So now let's shoot it. And then here are the two next to each other.
Just honestly, dude, think about it. How cool would it be to see that in the freaking game?
Oh yeah. It would be awesome.
Yeah, they both look awesome. They look great.
All right,
Right,
go
you got
for
it.
it, kid.
Yeah, let me get this out of the way so you have one.
I got eyes and ears.
Oh, yep, eyes and ears, rings going hot. Wait a second. Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, Michigan. Yeah. Sorry about that, Willie.
Okay,
it's,
good.
it's rough. I got friends in Michigan. They've been telling me how the weather's been schizophrenic. This thing puts a fireball out, I think. So this optic is crazy because it looks
Oh, yeah, look at
fake.
the flash on that one.
So you can see commanders trying to figure out how it works. Because you can't see through it. It's opaque. It looks like almost like a flashlight when you see it on top. So it looks like a cosplay thing. But now Eric kind of explains what the deal with this optic is.
Here, let me explain something because I should have explained to you before. The way to use that optic, you need to keep both eyes
Both
open.
eyes open.
Okay. You need to keep both eyes open, and that'll just focus on the threat, and you'll see that the dot appears on the threat.
Yeah.
Try it out.
Yeah. It's a little weird, but I got it.
So essentially, when you're looking through this thing, it's opaque, but it has a red dot in it. So with both eyes open, it gives you the optical illusion of that dot being on your eye that is open. So it kind of emulates how you should shoot with a red dot. Nowadays, you should shoot with both eyes open. I mean, even if you shoot iron sights, I encourage everyone to always shoot with both eyes open if you can learn to do that. Because when you've got one eye, first of all, there's something called, eye dominance. So you'll have one eye that's basically better than the other that you're better at aiming with. It may not be the same as the hand that you write with. You may have what's called cross-eye dominance, which I actually do with pistols. So I got to bring the pistol up to my right eye. That's just how I shoot. With rifles, I still shoot lefty. It's just more comfortable. And so I just kind of accept it. I've got optics on all my stuff. I don't shoot iron sights anymore. I have backup iron sights on all of my guns just in case, but I don't shoot that way anymore. Everything's magnified or a red dot. But yeah, it's pretty cool. So it gives kind of that illusion, and it's great because it doesn't require any power. It's almost like a Trijicon ACOG or a prism sight or any sight with like a fiber optic tube for light, and it's pretty cool. Yeah, like no batteries or anything.
Pretty much
like
like almost having a laser sight inside the
Yeah.
scope.
yeah,
Yep.
exactly, Arleon.
Yep.
So it's just not magnified, obviously, like an ACOG. But, same thing with like a prism optic or anything like that. You can shoot even if it's magnified. I've got a primary arms 3x prism
And what
on one of my
the
ARs.
reason
And
I picked it up.
it's great. You can shoot eye open.
I really believe Thompson got somebody told me, they closed the doors or not. There's still pretty much a living.
Yeah, so cool optic. It's weird. So now we're shooting some of the stuff that I don't know which one that was. So some of the stuff that I brought here.
All right, what have we got here?
So shooting the Golden Boy. Everybody loves the Golden Boy. Guns that people really love to shoot that are fun, that are not intimidating. The Golden Boy, great. I can put a bolt in my Mark 18 that lets me shoot 22 as well. And so you get to shoot this badass, CQB AR.
All day long.
I know.
Oh my God.
The MP5 in 22.
All right, what have we got here?
So now this is the high power.
A Browning high power. This is a Springfield SA-35.
All
Yeah,
right.
that finish is just so nice.
Safe, Rolo.
All right. Oh, it's safe. Oh, that's right.
Down.
Down.
Yep.
Not used to that.
Yep.
1911 is up, I believe. It's disengaged. Where is it? No, it is down too. Yeah, I just wasn't used to it.
That shoots nice.
Are those sweet shooting?
That's really nice.
What is the bull,
This is a Ruger Super Wrangler. It's a single action.
Okay. I guess there was one live one in there.
So you can get a good look at the MP5 too. So just fun guns to have a good time with, really here. So for those of you that are just watching, this was the Fallout Range Day that I had yesterday. It was run by Eric here and Andy's Range, which is where we were shooting. We shot different Fallout guns, mostly like Fallout New Vegas guns. And we brought, I brought some of my own personal collection out there to let other people shoot, just to introduce people to the fun of shooting. That's really what it's all about. Take care, Rain Man. Good seeing you. Glad you had a good trip. There's the AK that he talked about earlier, and the buddies were out there.
I got the buddies here. The buddies are hanging out.
They're tight.
So this is just going through the shop here.
I gotta bring my vest. If I would have brought my vest, I would have done it.
Next time.
And then there's all of the rifles right there.
That's where they gotta be.
This music, what the heck is up with the music here?
B-roll going.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to do that. Which one's better?
So yeah, I recommend stopping by here. Nice little range. It's kind of a hidden gem. It was open to the public, and not that many people there. I think it's kind of, if you know, you know. If you're, a cop or ex-military, that seems to be the clientele.
It's not that bad.
So
69.
I know. Did it on purpose.
that's the body armor that we were looking at. It's super thin. It's cool stuff. And they'll do your embroidery here. You can see that if you're doing
really cool.
forms
It's
or
gotta be
anything
really
like that.
expensive.
So good place. Check out Andy's training in Miami Lakes. Check out Eric at Cheating Death Customs. Let's put his website here. I'm gonna bring Eric on the show
Really good, though. These are
soon.
actually very good
Interview him, have him talk about his
Really
career
good.
in the U.S. Army and in the police force. His
God.
son is in the police force right now. So
Yeah.
that's what we got as far as the Fallout Range Day. So yeah, go ahead and check him out. Let's bring up the website here. There's Cheating Death Customs. So cheatingdeathcustoms.com. Now, definitely custom stuff, high end. So like all the boutique stuff, not staccato, not quite staccato level, but it is quality work. So that's what you pay for. So you guys know how custom guns are and quality. You get what you pay for with that quality. And Eric has fantastic work. You can get leather holsters as well, different grips, and just good stuff. His leather is where he gets his leather work done. Fantastic. Like I'm talking movie level leather work here. used in westerns and things like that. So great stuff. I had a great time. It's something that we're going to do more often. They even had the 1950s style of food truck there, and it was a great event. So I'll make sure to announce it. We're going to try to do it every year, and we're going to also do different types of shooting events here in South Florida and try to build that Miami gun culture, because it's not the same as in other places. You know, it's kind of an urban, suburban area, and different culture. It's become much more red politically as the years have gone by. The last election kind of showed that. But Miami's gun culture is still a little bit different than other parts of Florida, and how Central Florida was. So we kind of want to build kind of that Second Amendment culture, that love of gun ownership and freedom, and really introduce it to the population down here, which is mostly Hispanic. So we've got to grow that. That's what the goal has always been with, you know, why I started this in the first place. That's what Locked and Loaded Latinos was all about. That's what Puerto Rican Pistolero is. It's about bringing new people into the Second Amendment and freedom space, because ultimately that's what we care about. We care about being able to protect our families, being able to do what we want. If we're not bothering anybody, then, you know, everyone else should just F off, and we want to be left alone and and allowed to live the way that we want to be, and free from oppression from the government or corporations and the like. So that's what it's all about. That's always been the goal. And that goes in the entertainment space as well, when it comes to video games and the movies and TV shows that we love. So I really hope you enjoyed that. And that's kind of the perfect example that encapsulates all of that. You know, being able to bring, you know, weapons that you may have seen in a video game that you love. And I've got this music playing in the background. It's kind of weird. I don't know. You guys like the jazz? This? I'm just going to give commentary with jazz music playing in the background. So, you know, we started the evening a little bit somber. We talked about that. You know, we're bridging the gap here between the Second Amendment and gaming kind of cultural spaces here. And that's what I've always been passionate about and what I've believed in. And, you know, those of you that have been watching me for, you know, the last 3, almost 4 years, you know, have always seen that that's really what it's been about. You know, I don't have the cool stuff behind me the way that I used to. It'll be coming back someday. But that was always kind of part of it. I always wanted to be kind of that Trojan, the Second Amendment Trojan horse, and, you know, show off like, hey, I'm into gaming. I'm into all of this stuff. That's my passion. That's where I grew up. You guys have seen me with my, the interactions with my brother and my father here on this channel. It's always been genuine. You know, that's who I am. I've been playing video games since I was a kid. My dad's the one that got me my Super Nintendo back in the day. That was the first console I owned. And, you know, he and I were playing Mario Kart 64. That was the first game that we had on the Nintendo 64. He used to kick my ass. We would find all the crazy shortcuts and exploits like in Wario Stadium without any guides or the internet back then. And it was great. Same thing with Super Mario World. That was probably our favorite game of all time together. And then the evolution of consoles going through then. And it really brought my father and I together, and my younger brother as well. It's something that we shared throughout my entire life growing up. And I think it's important, you know, when, well, you know, hopefully one day I'll have children, and I'll do the same thing with them. And I think it's great that I can share all of these things that I care about and bring them all together, because you can see, like, there's so many stereotypes when it comes to gun ownership and people who own guns. You know, everybody there, you know, I didn't show the entire crowd. There are a lot of people that came in afterwards, but you can see we're a bunch of, like, you know, Latino dudes, not the usual people that you see there. There are a few women that rolled through as well. You know, people of all different types coming in. You know, police officers, ex-military, civilians. And it was great, because that's really what it's all about. That doesn't fit the stereotype, and you can see the how we geek out and nerd out about how things looked in the video game and trying to emulate that. and you know, bringing those passions together and showing all of this in a positive light. And I think it's important because we really do need to reach out to younger generations and have that sense of responsibility, because, you know, so many bad things happen today because we abdicate our responsibility. We don't teach children proper safety when it comes to firearms. If they stumble upon one, what they're supposed to do, you know, you know, firearm safety, the Second Amendment, what it means, the importance behind it, why we have it in the United States. I mean, when you see what's going on, you know, in Europe right now with their immigration crisis, what's going on in this country, and the contrast of that, there's really nothing that the Europeans will ultimately be able to do about, you know, being taken over, and eventually they're going to have to deal with attacks just because of all the immigration that they're getting from the Middle East and Northern Africa, and not having any sort of assimilation with that. We've been seeing attacks on women, and it's just going to get worse and worse. And the Europeans do nothing about this. They really don't. And I'm not sure if it's malicious, you know, it's weird, demonic forces, because sometimes it almost feels like it's a spiritual battle because there's no logic behind it. The people that are in control of the West want to destroy the West as well, itself. Maybe they're just bringing us back to serfdom, and they want to make everybody the third world. And then we have the 1% elites, the way that history has always been, essentially throughout mankind, where we have the abject poor, the peasant class, essentially, and then the aristocracy and the royalty. Is that where we're going towards? Is that the reversion to the norm? Because since the Enlightenment, these last, you know, 400 or so years, the paradigm has been shifted. We have a middle class for the first time, and maybe the elites don't like it. They don't like the fact that the middle class has so much power, that we have things like, democratic republics, and that we have the Constitution or things like that, and that people like you and I can own firearms and have mouthpieces on the internet that can reach out to thousands of people all over the world. They don't like any of that. And so that's why they want to destroy it. And that's what makes it so much more important to be out there and to talk about this stuff, and to not be afraid to voice your opinions when it comes to all of these things. So that's why I do what I do ultimately. And why the fight always continues. That's my primary passion. It's not, doing the gaming streams or anything like that. As much as I love that, it's my hobby, and I have a great time hanging out with you guys and spending time with my family doing that. It really is this. You know, it's the Second Amendment. It's freedom of speech. Learning a little bit about history. I went and got some of my books today that I hadn't seen in a while, you know, the Federalist Papers and Rousseau, all of those, the classic, you know, kind of freedom books, even my books on homesteading and survival. And it's just important that we have things like that we educate ourselves, that we have physical copies of things, that we do backups of digital content as well. That's another thing that we don't think about. Right now, we have these platforms and they're fantastic, but what if they do start taking them away and they start taking our ability away? It's important to have a repository of all of these things and to be able to download them and to back them up somewhere beyond just the cloud. So I always encourage people, if you're a YouTuber, a streamer of any kind, if you're a fan of them, download this content, save it if you can. Data is cheaper, or data storage is cheaper than ever. I've got tens of terabytes on this workstation with backups, of everything in high quality. And so if YouTube nukes my show, if all these platforms drop, all of that content is still there. So it's not going to go anywhere. I could restream it somewhere else or figure it out, save it for posterity. Do that for the shows that you really care about, that you know that make a difference out there. I think it's utterly important. There are people out there that are working on, digital preservation, and they're doing good work. And I think that's going to be something that becomes more and more important as time goes on, especially as we get, AI more prominent within these corporations scouring for content constantly that may be undesirable for the powers that be. You know, if we go into this dystopian future, certainly we see things like this in China, and with the way that the West has been moving in the post-COVID era, and the collusion with social media corporations and the media in general, it's something that we're going to see more and more of. So we have to have those copies. We see how Amazon and other online publishers can change the content of books, of ebooks. So having that physical copy or an original digital copy is important. And having both is great. The physical copy in that case is better, especially of movies and things like that. But we've got to get whatever we can. We have to preserve the state of information as it is today, because it will be able to be changed. We may get like a 1984 situation, and with AI also having deep fakes, audio modifications, deep fakes of audio and video. We're going to need original sources. You may not be able to prove it easily in the future that it's the original, but at least it's there. And, we can have people that may be able to corroborate that. Yeah, that's how it really happened. And, it's a wild world that we're going into, and it's going to be a post-truth era. I forgot who came up with that term, but I'm sure many of you have heard it before. And it's going to be because of how easy it will be to create faked content online, and it's going to cause issues. It's either going to cause conflicts or paralysis, which will then lead to collapse. Because when you think about it, if you can essentially create evidence of anything that you want, you can have the audio tape where Trump says whatever the left said he did. Like he's got a phone call with Putin that they'll timestamp to 2014, and they'll say that he colluded and everything, and it'll all be fake, but it will seem so real because of the technology that we won't be able to figure it out, and that will just freeze things. They'll be like, well, can we believe it? Can we not? And it could be vice versa. It could be something about Biden or Obama or whoever you want, and it may just get us to the point where it will be so impossible to prove or disprove the truth of these video and audio recordings and files that we just basically freeze and we go back to eyewitness reporting, and that's it. Like, we become hyper localized where we can't trust what's going on beyond our borders. And it's a scary thing to think about because of how far we've come, but that may be where it goes, where you're going to have, just physical newspapers come back or something like that. And it focuses on your local area. And we go back to film and things like that. They can still be doctored, and you can lie about these things, but you won't be able to trust digital content. People can be falsely accused of doing things. So that's how it'll be. It'll just be like, if it's digital, I can't even trust it. Like I can't do anything about that. And there will always be counter AI, algorithms, programs, whatever you want to call it, whatever term you want to give it. It's all the same, that will be trying to uncover these deep fakes. But I think once it starts getting to the point, the first time where it's indistinguishable, it won't matter. You won't be able to trust anything because everything like that, any tools like that are always reactionary. So you're always going to be at least one step behind, where these people are going. Maybe if we get to quantum computing, but you can have a quantum counterintelligence computer. It doesn't matter. I think once that cat is out of the bag, it's going to just cause so many problems that you won't be able to trust anything online. And it's going to suck. It's going to have major repercussions for our society. And I don't know how we're going to react to it. Maybe just, like I said, we're going to go old school. So download whatever you can, buy physical copies of books and movies. That's all you can do. CDs are still around in some cases. Buy vinyl. If you've got digital copies of your stuff, back everything up. Back it all up. Hard drives, non-volatile memory, regular SSDs, all the above. Do it all. They all have their strengths and weaknesses. That's really what I recommend for everyone. Set up your own server or do it on your computer. Back up as much data as possible. Back up content. All of that. It's just going to become extremely important in the next few months and years of where we're going. And that's just regardless of the election. This technology is just going to advance upon us, and it really won't matter who's in charge. Once that cat is out of the bag, that's how it's going to be. And there's going to be great things that AI will be capable of doing. And it'll be things like this that, governments can use and abuse. There may be things that eventually we can't control. And it's going to be tough to parse through all of it. And we may see like AI conflicts itself. But I think going back to old school, this is where now kind of going back to the art of the conversation and being able to have interpersonal skills, which we've lost, especially, generations before us. I'm a grizzled, late 30s millennial at this point. So, I kind of straddle the line between the era before ubiquitous cell phones and social media and the world that we live in today. Back using floppy disks and things like that. I still remember VHS tapes and all that stuff. That was very much a part of my childhood in the early 90s. And rotary phones, all that stuff. So, really, really spanning that time period to where we are today, to being on the bleeding edge. And it's crazy to see how quickly it's all advanced, and without any regard for what we're doing. We're basically monkeys that are just like stumbling upon stuff, and we don't know what the hell we're doing about it. And it's totally wild. Like, the technology is moving faster than we can comprehend the way that we use it. And now you're almost seeing a reversion where cell phones and touchscreen devices are so ubiquitous that there are some younger generations that barely know how to use regular computers or laptops at this point, which is wild to me. So it's like we're just going down this strange path of where everything has become so convenient that we've lost our skills. We don't know how to survive even within a modern society. That's the crazy part, let alone going into the wilderness if we needed to. Like, there's barely anybody that can survive that at this point. Maybe like 10 or 20% of the population might have a shot. Realistically, then you'll have another percentage that's got the stuff but doesn't know how to use it. And then everybody else is just a loser that's going to, be done within a week because they got nothing and they don't know how to do anything. Or they'll get subjugated by the criminals in the cities and things like that. It's crazy stuff that could happen. So, that's what you have to do. We have to work on being more self-sufficient. We've got to back these things up. I can't stress that enough, especially as somebody that's from Puerto Rico, lives in Florida. You're dealing with major, potentially meteorological disasters every year. And at least, a WROL situation. So without rule of law. So, years ago when Irma passed through Florida, it basically split the Keys in half for a while. And everything south of, I forgot which mile marker it was, like 75 or something. Everything south of that was it. There were no services. There was no police or anything like that. There was the National Guard and saying, like, once you cross this line, like, that's it. It's the Wild West, baby. Like, we're not going to be able to bail you out for like 72 hours. And it's wild, man. It's totally wild that can happen. Florida was lucky because Puerto Rico being detached from the mainland, it was more difficult. It couldn't get supplies. So Florida, we got electric crews and everything like that driving in within days of storms hitting. Hurricane Harvey, same thing. Puerto Rico logistically, and for stupid ways that the federal government is set up and treating Puerto Rico like it's not part of the United States, essentially, cause issues. But those are situations you have to deal with, that you have to be prepared for. How much food do you have to last, and investing in those things. And I'm somebody, I can fault myself this more. It's something that I was working to build on when I was in a different area in Central Florida. I think was an ideal place, at least as far as Florida is concerned, to prepare for this type of stuff, having, a home out there, but, things change. So, working on building your supplies, especially food and those kinds of things. It's much more difficult in an urban or suburban environment where you may be limited in space, but you got to try to do it. So, months of food for each person that you have, at least 3 months, I would say. And that's something that I even need to improve for sure. Ammunition, you should have a few thousand rounds, at least 1,000 rounds per, they say per gun. And I think that that's not wrong, but no, I got too many guns for that. That would be like $10,000 worth of ammo. But you should, of each type at least. So at least 1,000 to 2,000 rounds. I would say probably closer to 2,000s of every type of round that you have. So 2009 millimeter, 2005 5.56. Shotguns a little bit different, a few hundred. So these are just things that you do to prepare, and to be able to train. Now, are you actually going to use that much? You better pray that you don't, because if you're getting into firefights in this type of situation, you're doing everything wrong. You should not be, because you're not going to have access to emergency medical care if you don't have doctors or trauma experts, nurses that in your family or in your circle of friends that are going to help you in this situation, and you don't even have basic trauma training, which I encourage that you all do, better than firearms training, if we're being perfectly honest, because you'll be able to use that in any situation, not just a gunfight. Do that. Get your trauma training, emergency first aid training, individual first aid kits, family first aid kits, antibiotics, all that stuff. Prepare those kits. Have your personal protective equipment. So regardless of where you spanned on COVID, we I think pretty much all of us here believe that it was released from Wuhan and it was created in a lab. What if next time they make it a lot more potent? So have all that equipment there, really good masks. And that's for like biological and chemical weaponry too. Warfare. Always good to have all that stuff. You go to military surplus websites, you can find, gas masks and things like that if you want to go really hardcore with that stuff. So you really need all that stuff. Antibiotics, absolutely critical. Those little things, something that can just give you a cut in society now where we have the infrastructure. If you're in a natural disaster or, society has collapsed and you don't really have access to healthcare, sanitizing wounds, cleaning them out, and healing them properly is going to be critical. You're going back to like the 1800s here, essentially, when it comes to that, or even 100 years ago is bad enough, before the advent of a lot of this stuff. So you got to do it. You got to keep your stuff sanitary. You got to clean things all the time, disinfect yourself, be careful. Like you really don't, this is now a situation where you don't want to F around. You don't even want to trip. You don't want to break any bones, all that stuff. Cause it's going to get real fast. This is just the reality of these types of situations. Your water situation too, water purification is going to be of the utmost importance. You can survive food scarcity for 2 or 3 weeks without food. Water, after 2 or 3 days, you're going to get jacked up. So you have to have a means to purify water. So again, it could be a situation where you went through a hurricane, an earthquake. We've been dealing with earthquakes. Look at what happened in Taiwan. Look at what happened in New Jersey. We had a 4.5 or 4.8. If it had been a lot worse, you think people in New York and New Jersey would have been prepared for something like that? Absolutely not. It would have been a disaster. So these are the things that you got to think about. Now, if you're in New England, you seriously have to consider this. Like, what if it had been a 7.5 earthquake? You've got high-rise buildings and all that stuff. Are they going to be able to stand up to that? I don't know. Are you prepared for that? I think most people aren't. And you need to be. And in moments of desperation, like think about where you live too. Sometimes we can't control that. Or your economic situation may be difficult. Maybe you're taking care of family members. Maybe you just love where you live. You got a paid off home and you lived there for decades and the politics have shifted underneath you. I totally get that. That sucks. And you should have a right to stay where you are. But some places are going to be better than others. So gauge the situation of where you live and those around you. Maybe you're fortified, but you live in a blue area where everybody's basically going to be a zombie after a few days because they didn't, they don't have guns or supplies or know how to deal with this situation. If they do have a bare minimum of that stuff, urban people and suburban people, even if they're conservative, it doesn't matter. They may not be prepared. So gauge those around you. I always set up a group with your friends, your family, your extended team, if you want to call it that, of people that you're going to work with in these types of situations that you can call. If you want to start getting even more hardcore, you can train with these people in emergency situations, have a phone tree, things like that, share supplies, have responsibilities, get people with specializations, medical especially, military experience, fantastic for those situations. Combat veterans, even better. Anybody that could be useful in that situation, even comms, having drones are useful nowadays, as we've seen. All of this stuff in a situation like this can be very useful. Drones can help you rescue people. It can find pets after a storm, things like that. Those are little things that you're like, man, yeah, a camera in the sky would be useful, not just for security and scoping things out, just helping with stuff like that. And you're probably going to use it more for that in these situations. So we all think about the gunfight. The gunfight is the exciting part. That's where you train and you get all this cool stuff. That should be something that you hope never happens. Like, even if society collapses, if you can be in a situation where you never have to be in a gunfight, yeah, you're going to walk around with your gear, protecting your territory and things like that. You want to test it out. You want to train. You want to make sure that you're in good shape to be able to walk around and deal with this stuff. You may not be able to stay where you're at and hunker down, even though that's ideal. If you can, just lock in wherever you're at and bunker down until things either get better or society stabilizes, whatever the new normal is. Maybe the government gets control again. Maybe if they don't, at least you have some sort of stability. It may be a partial without rule of law situation. So like a lot of countries in the Middle East where the government is not power, you have a country, but essentially there's no police force, or it's localized to major cities that can afford that. But the rest of the country is basically anarchy in a sense, but still part of the U.S. So more of how the Wild West used to be, I would say, or portrayed. So you have to kind of protect yourself, but you may still have a job. There's still people buying things. There's still products, but it's a sketchy situation where you have to worry about banditry and things like that. So it's these are all the things. I don't know how we went on this tangent, but this is how it is. I guess even talking about Fallout, it makes you think about this kind of stuff. And like I said, we're just gonna wing it. Like, I'm just winging it today. Had a lot of stuff happen. Didn't really get a chance to prepare for this show. So that's what we're doing. And taking it a step back, it's not without rule of law. We've talked about that. Let's go back to not even getting to that situation. Let's go to what's happening now that will hopefully prevent us from getting to that situation. And that is our voice, freedom of speech. There is a global war on freedom of speech right now. It's been going on for the last few years. We've seen it. We're all, believe me, you guys are intimately aware of it. I am as well. But now we really are seeing it in the legal sense. It's not just suppression on social media and using corporations to do their dirty work. Now governments are really cracking down on this. So, this is what we need to prepare for. So I know a lot of you saw Dan's tweet yesterday talking about what was going on in Brazil. Let me bring up actually some updates and kind of an expansion of what was going on from Martin Schellenberger. Okay. So this is kind of what Dan was referencing yesterday with a new speech law that is going on in Brazil. I have a very close friend in Brazil as well right now who has told me a little bit more about that from the perspective of some of the locals there and some of their concerns and what they've seen there. So, I got to DM Dan and talk to him a little bit more. But essentially, let's bring this up. I'm just going to let the video play, but I'll read this. I don't know if this is just a transcript of what Schellenberger is saying, but let's just bring it up.
Hey everyone, it's Mike Schellenberger, and I'm reporting to you at this moment from Brazil, where a dramatic series of events
Let's see. Yeah.
are underway. At 5:52 p.m. Eastern Time today, April 6, 2024, X Corporation, formerly known as Twitter, announced that a Brazilian court had forced it to, quote, block certain popular accounts in Brazil. Then, less than 1 hour later, the owner of X, Elon Musk, announced that X would defy the court's order and lift all restrictions. As a result, said Musk, we will probably lose all revenue in Brazil and have to shut down our office there. But principles matter more than profit, he added. At any moment, Brazil's Supreme Court could shut off all access to X Twitter for the people of Brazil. It is not an exaggeration to say that Brazil is on the brink of dictatorship at the hands of a totalitarian Supreme Court justice named Alexandre de Moraes. President Lula da Silva is also participating in this push towards totalitarianism. Since taking office, Lula has massively increased government funding of the mainstream corporate news media, most of which are encouraging increased censorship. What Lula and de Moraes are doing is an outrageous violation of Brazil's constitution as well as the United Nations Declaration of Human Rights. At this moment, Brazil is not yet a dictatorship. It still has elections, and the Brazilian people have other means at their disposal to confront authoritarianism. At the same time, the federal Supreme Court and the Superior Electoral Court, which it controls, are directly interfering in those elections through censorship. 3 days ago, I arrived in Brazil and published the Twitter files for Brazil. They show that de Moraes has violated the Brazilian constitution in multiple ways. He illegally demanded that Twitter reveal private information about Twitter users who used hashtags that he considered inappropriate. He demanded access to Twitter's internal data, violating the platform's policy. He censored on his own initiative, without any respect for due process, posts on Twitter by parliamentarians from the Brazilian Congress. And Moraes tried to turn Twitter's content moderation policies into a weapon against supporters of then-President Jair Bolsonaro. I say all of this as an independent and nonpartisan journalist. I'm not a fan of either Bolsonaro or Trump. My own political views are very moderate, but I know censorship when I see it. The Twitter files revealed also that Google, Facebook, Uber, WhatsApp, and Instagram betrayed the people of Brazil. If this evidence is proven and admitted to, the executives of those companies behaved like cowards. They provided the Brazilian government with personal registration data and telephone numbers without a court order. Therefore, they violated the Brazilian laws. When Twitter refused, to their credit, to provide Brazilian authorities with private user information, including direct messages, the government of Brazil attempted to sue and hold Brazil's top Twitter attorney in criminal contempt. When I was in Brazil in 1992, at the time, the slogan of the Workers' Party was "Without fear of being happy." In recent days, I've spoken to dozens of Brazilians, including professors, journalists, and respected lawyers. All of them told me that they are shocked by what is happening here. They told me that they themselves are afraid to speak their mind, and that the Lula government, the Workers' Party government, is complicit in creating this climate of fear. Look, Brazil belongs to the Brazilians. It's not my country, such there's limits to what I'm capable of doing. But what I can say is that there are many Brazilians who do not feel safe saying what must be said. Alexandre de Moraes is a tyrant, and the only way to deal with tyrants is to confront them. It's up to Brazil's senators now to confront this tyrant, and it's up to the people of Brazil to demand that their senators do so. In 1992, my best Brazilian friend gave me a t-shirt that I loved. On it was a cartoon of Brazil's military dictators who had painted the sky black. Beside them were children who were smiling and throwing stars up into the dark sky. It said, "They painted the sky black, but we brought back the stars." Alexandre de Moraes and Lula are painting the sky black.
Yep, you're right,
The time has
Jonathan.
come for the Brazilian people to let the light.
Okay, yeah, that's where it ended there. So that's what's going on in Brazil. That's it sucks. It absolutely sucks. And I am concerned. I'm concerned about a lot of these things. And I think anyone should be concerned that cares about this. We're worried about Dan. Obviously, Dan is very outspoken about a lot of issues on social media. And, will this affect him? How are they going to crack down on it? How hard? Because some of this logistically is not very easy. So we have to see this. But we've been seeing this pop up in countries in the West. Canada has laws about misgendering and things like that. We've seen things like that pop up in Europe. We see what's been going on with J.K. Rowling and the saga of free speech violations in Scotland with their laws there. And she's been pushing back against it, which is great. I don't agree with all of her politics, but she's right on this issue. She's been a champion of women's rights and pushing back against the trans issue. It's crazy, but this is where we are. And here in Scotland, we've got the Hate Crime and Public Order of Scotland Act 2021. This particular law was first passed by the Scottish Parliament in 2021 after receiving royal assent on April 23rd of the same year and enforced on Monday, the 1st of April. Yeah, of course, on April Fool's Day. Per the document, the act is enforced to, quote, make provision about the aggravation of offenses by prejudice, to make provision about an offense of racially aggravated harassment, to make provision about offenses relating to stirring up hatred against a group of persons, to abolish the common law offense of blasphemy, and for connected purposes. Further, specifically regarding, quote, aggravation of offenses by prejudice, the law stipulates that an offense is aggravated by prejudice when there is a specific victim of the offense, which can happen at, quote, the time of committing the offense or immediately before or after doing so. The offender demonstrates malice and ill will towards the victim, quote, end quote, or when, quote, the malice and ill will is based on the victim's membership or presumed membership of a group, end quote. The document lists as follows, quote, age, disability, race, color, nationality, including citizenship, or ethnic or national origins, religion, or in the case of a social or cultural group, perceived religious affiliation, sexual orientation, transgender identity, variations in sexual characteristics, end quote. It is also quote, aggravated by prejudice. The document states, quote, whether or not there's a specific victim of the offense is motivated wholly or partly by malice and ill will towards a group of persons based on the group being defined by reference to a characteristic mentioned above towards members of the specified group. In offenses of stirring up hatred section, the document also stipulates, quote, a person commits an offense if the person behaves in a manner that a reasonable person would consider to be threatening. What is a reasonable? How do you define a reasonable person? Like, what does that even mean? Abusive or insulting, or communicates to another person material that a reasonable person would consider to be threatening, abusive, or insulting. Quote, a person who commits an offense under this section is liable on summary conviction to imprisonment for a term not exceeding 12 months or a fine not exceeding the statutory minimum, or both, or on conviction on indictment to imprisonment for a term not exceeding 7 years or a fine, or both. It further states 7 years. The Harry Potter scribe has been very vocal about her discontent with transgender ideology, accusing on several occasions that this particular movement seeks to erase women. Criticism that can end up falling into categories protected by the new hate crime law. As the Hate Crime and Public Order of Scotland Act 2021, what a mouthful, is enforced on Monday, the Harry Potter author shared a series of social media posts showing transgender activists and criminals to decry the new law's hypocrisy and omitting women as a protected group against hatred. Quote, Scotland's Hate Crime Act comes into effect today. Women gain no additional protections, of course, but well-known trans activist Beth Douglas, darling of prominent Scottish politicians, falls within a protected category. Whew, wrote Rowling, sharing a couple of posts made by Douglas wherein he incited to violence on social media. I just, these, you guys know who these people are. It's the usual characters. In a follow-up post, the Harry Potter author added, lovely Scottish lass and convicted double rapist Isla Bryson found her true authentic female self shortly before she was due to be sentenced. Misgendering is hate, so respect Isla's pronouns, please. Love the leggings. I gotta appreciate, I do appreciate Rowling's sarcasm here. It's just disgusting stuff. It's just like people... Fragile flower Katie Latowski, 6'5", was rightly sent to a women's prison in Scotland after conviction. Ironically mocked Rowling, adding, this ensured she was protected from violent predatory men, unlike the 10-year-old girl Katie sexually assaulted in a woman's public restroom. No, like this shouldn't be happening. This is ridiculous. Samantha Norris was cleared of exposing the male genitalia to two 11-year-old girls. Hooray, Rowling remarked. She continued, quote, unfortunately, she was then convicted for possession of 16,000 images of children being assaulted sexually. Be that as it may, Sam's still a lady to me, end quote. Rowling pointed out, quote, a Scottish woman and butcher Amy George abducted an 11-year-old girl while dressed in female clothing. No idea why this was mentioned in court. Of course, she was wearing women's clothing. She's a woman. Amy took the girl home and sexually abused her over a 27-hour period. She added, "Jeez Louise." But most women aren't axe toters or sex offenders. So let's talk role models. Julia Valentino in Red wanted to play on the women's team because of sisterhood, validation, and political visibility. Naturally, she was given some boring cis girl space. Yay for inclusion. I'm being sarcastic, but JK was definitely being sarcastic here. Mirad Al-Wadwa, sorry for mispronouncing the name, head of a Scottish rape crisis center, says sexual violence happens to bigoted people as well. She has no gender recognition certificate, but was still appointed to a job advertised for women only. Time to be challenged on your prejudices, rape victims. Wow. Monroe Bergdorf isn't just a pretty face, public campaigner for a children's charity until safeguarding concerns were raised. She was appointed UN Women's first ever UK champion. What makes a woman a woman? She has no definitive answer, says Monroe. Great choice, UN Women. Katie Neves has been appointed as the UN Women UK delegate. She switched from straight man to lesbian at the age of 48, and in a leaked 2022 webinar described how she used to enjoy stealing and wearing her sister's underwear. A truly relatable representative. Last but least, TV's India Willoughby proves we women can call a black broadcaster a nasty biatch who wouldn't be anywhere without woke. Dub lesbians men, insult the looks of a female Olympic swimmer, joke about kidnapping feminists, and still get airtime. What a gal! Rowling would eventually to go on to explain that her very intentional series of posts, specifically regarding her addressing of the aforementioned transgender individuals as women, were an April Fool's joke, elaborating more on the reasons that led her to highlight them, defying authorities to arrest her if what she shared could be deemed offensive under Scotland's strict new act. Only kidding. Obviously, the people mentioned in the above tweets aren't women at all, but men. Every last one of them, Rowling mocked. She elaborated, in passing the Scottish Hate Crime Act, Scottish lawmakers seem to have placed higher value on the feelings of men performing their idea of femaleness, however misogynistically or opportunistically, than on the rights and freedoms of actual women and girls. The new legislation is wide open to abuse by activists who wish to silence those of us speaking out about the dangers of eliminating women's and men's single-sex spaces, the nonsense made of crime data if violence and sexual acts committed by men are recorded as female crimes, the grotesque unfairness of allowing males to compete in female sports, the injustice of women's jobs, honors, and opportunities being taken by trans-identified men, and the reality and immutability of biological sex, Rowling further explained. She noted, quote, for several years, years now, Scottish women have been pressured by their government and members of the police to forced to deny the evidence of their eyes and ears, repudiate biological facts, and embrace a neo-religious concept of gender that is unprovable and untestable, end quote. The redefinition of woman to include every man who declares himself one has already had serious consequences for women and girls' rights and safety in Scotland, with the strongest impact felt as ever by the most vulnerable, including female prisoners and rape survivors, the Harry Potter author decried. Rowling went on, it is impossible to accurately describe or tackle the reality of violence and sexual violence committed against women and girls, or address the current assault on women's and girls' rights unless we're allowed to call a man a man. Freedom of speech and belief are at an end in Scotland if the accurate description of biological sex is deemed criminal. I'm currently out of the country, but if what I've written here qualifies as an offense under the terms of the new act, I look forward to being arrested when I return to the birthplace of the Scottish Enlightenment, the author defied. Rowling then encouraged readers to share her post, concluding, if you agree with the views set out in this tweet, please retweet it. I mean, I barely even need to rant. Who would have believed that I could have read what J.K. Rowling said, and I really don't need to add anything to it. I really don't. It is exactly what she said. This is preposterous what is going on here. Absolutely preposterous. And again, the fact the governments are pushing this agenda and willing and threatening to throw people into prison, take away people's freedoms for saying things like this, especially things like this. I mean, look, I've always been against hate speech laws because it is pretty ridiculous to take away somebody's freedom because of something that they say. I personally would rather know what kind of assholes I am dealing with. And if people get to the point where it's harassment, because it can be, then you can deal with it. But if some dude calls me some slur because I'm a Hispanic, I just tell them to go F themselves, or I just ignore them and I really don't give a crap. So it's the hate speech laws and all that stuff. It doesn't, that's all BS to me. It's just people being assholes and in some cases they're racist. I'd rather know who those people are out in the open, and then I just tell them to F off, and I know who I don't want to deal with. And at that point, they expose themselves pretty openly, and everybody's like, this dude's a freaking asshole. And, society tends to correct itself in that regard. So, it's all this. It's the march towards authoritarianism, really, at the end of the day. That's what it is. So, laws like this prevent you from exposing the assholes and incite fear in the population. That's really what happens. And then it throws certain things into the shadows. Maybe you do want to know. I want to know who the assholes are, personally. Let them talk. This is how you win in the marketplace of ideas as well. We can't be afraid of this. And if our population is so stupid that you follow some crazies, then we're all screwed anyway. So, let people talk. That's what the First Amendment is all about. They can say heinous and terrible things. If they become abusive with it and start harassing you incessantly, that's a different story. But, F them if they call you something terrible. That's the way that I look at it. Puerto Rican. What is a Puerto Rican? Oh man. Reckon these freaking leftists or these freaking progressives, really, to be honest, with all their authoritarian bullshit. So, and then in our last one, it seems like Poland is jumping in on this bandwagon too. So, we're seeing this everywhere on every front, and it's crazy because Poland, up until their last election, was, hey man, they were pretty based. But ever since this guy Tusk has taken over, it seems like they've taken a turn towards that sweet authoritarianism that the Europeans just seem to not get enough of, which really it's a sad and terrible thing. All right. Globalist Polish government pushes Scottish-style hate speech law with 3 years in prison. The recently installed globalist government of Eurocrat Donald Tusk is seeking to amend the criminal code of the country to criminalize, quote, incitement to hatred, end quote. What's going on, JT? against the LGBT community with 3 years in prison. The first week of Scotland's extreme hate speech law may have descended into shambles, but that isn't stopping other progressive governments from giving it a go, with Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk's Ministry of Justice seeking to implement similar speech restrictions to those imposed in Scotland. The amendment to the Polish Criminal Code, which was proposed at the behest of leftist Minister of Justice Adam Bodnar last month, according to a document released by TVN24 reporter Radomir Witt, would cover inciting, quote, hatred based on national, ethnic, racial, religious differences or due to non-denomination disability, age, gender, sexual orientation, or sexual identity, end quote, for which offenders would face up to 3 years in prison. According to Polish attorney Bartosz Lewandowski, the law could result in people being prosecuted for declaring that you can only be a man or a woman, or for refusing to use somebody's so-called preferred pronouns. The amendment would also criminalize statements such as transgenderism is a mental disorder, or even quoting Bible scripture condemning homosexuality, he claimed. Lewandowski said that by his reading of the amendment, the law would essentially criminalize any criticism towards the LGBT community. Globalist takeover. Okay, well, that's a tweet. This week, Law and Justice PIS parliamentarian Merrick blasted the attempts by the left-wing globalist government to impose extreme censorship of the Polish people. Ast described the proposed amendment as an assassination of freedom of speech and thinking, adding, this government does not want citizens to be free to express their opinions. We're introduced to such rules in a totalitarian state, end quote. In January, the government's progressive Minister of Equality, Katarzyna Kotula, argued that hate speech laws, particularly surrounding the LGBT community, would need to be strengthened in order to facilitate the Catholic country's march towards legalizing same-sex unions, warning that, quote, hate still flows on internet and right-wing media, end quote. Kotula went on to argue that the globalist government was put in power in large part thanks to women and young people, and in both groups, equality, minority, and women's rights are absolutely priority issues, end quote. Deputy Minister of Justice Krzysztof Śmisek, an openly gay man, has also called for the criminalization of hate speech against LGBT people, saying, quote, the time has come to ban discussing homophobic and discriminatory statements in public space. End quote. While Prime Minister Tusk has a governing majority in the Sejm party with his two left-wing party coalition partners, it's unclear if the government has enough votes to supersede a potential veto from conservative PIS President Andrzej Duda. To override a presidential veto, a 3/5 majority vote is required. However, Tusk currently only controls 239 seats in the 460-member parliament, short of the 276 votes needed. So that's where we're at. So this hasn't happened yet, but you know we're starting to see it move in that same direction when it comes to speech laws. So what's going on with the West? Again, this has been a test since the lockdown era. That's really what it was, and you always have to be wary when you talk about this stuff. So, was it all intentional? Was COVID intentionally released? I don't know. I really can't answer that. I do believe it was created in a lab at Wuhan. I don't know if it was intentionally released, but definitely the results were taken advantage of for sure. So, we saw authoritarianism on the rise. We saw different trials of different things taken advantage of. And, early on, obviously, when you don't know what's going on, some of the procedures and things that went down, lockdowns and things like that, those seemed like logical things that you may do. But as time went on and we saw, how things changed and how certain governments were kind of taking advantage of situations, and they were also mismanaging things that led to the deaths of thousands of people, like in New York, and Pennsylvania and Michigan. Things just didn't make sense. And other countries had their own issues. And we saw the authoritarianism in Australia, even after the jab was developed and, people started using it. We saw people's livelihoods put in jeopardy, things like that. Years lost and, for children in schools. So it's crazy. And, I think we have seen that there is a certain percentage of the population that will always follow what government restrictions or and things like that. But now there's an even larger portion that I think is much more skeptical because they saw, yeah, you know what, a lot of these things may have been very logical, but you guys took advantage of them, as time went on. And so we saw that. And they've also put in jeopardy, if we have a really, some sort of really bad biological weapon, with a mortality rate of more than even 10%, let alone something like, an Ebola, Marburg, 60, 70, 80% lethality kind of virus. Then they put in jeopardy because of the mismanagement and trying to take advantage of the crisis that we went through over the last few years. A lot of people are going to be skeptical, and that's just in general. Credibility of the government has dropped, and it's a shame because now it's almost like a boy who cried wolf situation, where next time it may be bad, and then people just don't care because they're like, you know what, the first time it wasn't what you said it was, or you took advantage of it much longer than you should have. So it's going to be the same thing again, and then a lot of people may disregard it, and they'll actually be serious, and then you'll really see a mass casualty situation. Where instead of hundreds of thousands of people, or a couple million, you have millions upon millions of people that may die because of that. So that's the danger that is posed here when the government loses credibility because they're trying to take advantage of a situation, have their cake and eat it too, so to speak. So it sucks. It really does, because that's dangerous. That is dangerous to us, the next time, because now our adversaries can take advantage of that. They're like, hey, a lot of the American people are going to be, even though we may be rightfully skeptical, it could bite us in the butt. That's just how it is. So that's why you have to be prepared either way. So yeah, you may be skeptical of the government when they talk about this new bird flu and all this stuff that we're seeing in Texas, and that we saw there. Obviously be skeptical of it. But if it does actually seem serious, make sure you've got the right stuff. This is what we talked about earlier on the show in the without rule of law situation. Make sure you've got your antibiotics, your gas masks and things like that, just in case this time somebody tries to take advantage of the situation a little bit more seriously. Because we're involved in a lot of stuff. Let's be honest. We have our hands in a lot of cookie jars right now, overseas, and involvement in different conflicts. So, and when we're dealing with people like the Iranians potentially, they don't necessarily F around the same way that the Russians and the Chinese might. The Russians and the Chinese are a little bit more about self-preservation. They can play economic games. The Iranians, you're dealing with zealotry and fanaticism there, in a lot of cases in their leadership. They're pretty hardcore. So don't think that a country like Iran may not be willing to use something, or maybe one of those other two adversaries is willing to give Iran something that they could use. So that would be terrible. And even if we annihilate them afterwards, it doesn't really matter, because a biological weapon is a lot worse than nuclear weapons hitting you. So these are all things. Just stay wary, guys. I understand that this is an era where there's a trust deficit. Just prepare yourself for as many situations as you can. It's not being paranoid. It's called hedging your bets. It's insurance, being prepared. So maybe next time it's going to be really serious. So don't think that because, of what they tried to do this time around, that next time it may be legit. It's completely, not the COVID wasn't, but something that's going to be mass, like no escaping it. You really do need to hunker down and run from it. So just be ready. Have what you need. And, it could be other things too. Anthrax, biological weapon, chemical weapons, stuff like that, radiation. And it's expensive to get ready for this stuff. So it's tough. It is tough. It's not being paranoid. It's having a slight prepper mentality, but it's also, again, I've been watching, weather channels lately, like Ryan Hall, which is crazy, and tornadoes throughout the country. A lot of people losing their homes and things like that. That's their disaster. That's the end of their world in some cases. So you want to be prepared for that. What if you lost your home as you were in it? Would you still be prepared with that? Your supplies are in it too. Now you've lost those. Do you have contingencies for that? Those are other things to think about depending on where you live. Rocket Sauce with the 50. Holy cow, Rocket Sauce. Thank you so much. Stay ready so you don't have to get ready. That's wise words, Rocket Sauce. Very wise words. Sully Bach, yeah, there were some strange things because the government was paying out money to hospitals for different diagnoses. So those are the sketchy things that we see. So, be vigilant of what the powers that be can do, but don't let that make you stupid either and take away your common sense at the end of the day. Because I can tell you, I was at SHOT Show in 2020, just before the pandemic came out. And, we already kind of knew that something weird was going on before it was admitted in March. You could see that Chinese cities were locking down. If you were paying attention, you could hear about that stuff. A lot of people got sick at SHOT Show, and it was more than just the flu. It was different. It was the usual like show crud. There's always Chinese agents at SHOT Show. Maybe they work for the MSS and trying to get a hold of different products, newer products in the defense industry and things like that at SHOT. So, could have spread that way too. So you never know. You never know. So those are things that you got to pay attention to. Like watch the ground, go to different news sources, look at what elites are doing sometimes, are they moving money? Are they doing certain things that'll kind of tell you the cues if it's not too public? Try to figure those things out. What are people investing in? What are people that really have money investing in? It may tell you something, that they've got insider information on something, or they may know it, even if it's just a couple of days before you do. That could be the difference between you being prepared or not for something potentially happening. Whatever that thing is, I don't know. Could be anything. Even this coming election, there could be civil violence, conflict, things like that. Be prepared. This is all the without rule of law situation, or even if it's just local to you for a certain period of time. So, sorry, this became like a really heavy conversation, but that's kind of where I'm at right now. That's where I'm at this moment. It's pretty heavy. So, that's it. Stay vigilant all the time. Prepare yourself. Enjoy the things that you've got to. You can't live in fear all the time. You can't. Don't be complacent, but at the same time, enjoy life. There's still a lot of good things out there. There are a lot of good people. I have a lot of great conversations, outside of this show that kind of prepare me for this show, and it's great to have a springboard, somebody that you can trust to be a springboard with all that stuff. So your close friends, your family, people that share those values, maybe have that springboard, have that guidance. Somebody that you can trust if you can, or at least somebody that'll listen. Sometimes it's not about having sometimes it's not necessarily always a two-way conversation. Some people are better listeners. Don't overwhelm them, obviously. And don't, sometimes you can come off strong. Talking about these issues. So, give them a break. If somebody's willing to listen to you, don't vomit all of it at once. They probably agree with you, or they're close to it, or they don't need any sort of convincing on where they're at. So have a little bit of mercy, have a little bit of mercy. And if you're in person, moderate your voice. Don't deafen them, especially when you're in a car. You can deafen somebody on one side of their ear, and that's not cool. So, I think that's what I've got. This was a bit of an impromptu episode. You know, if you want to go back to the beginning of the show, kind of find out what happened, you know, check that out. You know, prayers for my Aunt Luce. You know, she passed just a few hours ago, and you know, my mother and her family and everybody. So, and thank you for the condolences at the beginning of the show, and thanks for hanging out every week. You know, the shows, I've seen that the algorithm has been very weird with this show. So if you like what you see, share it, let people know what this is all about, what I'm doing here on the channel. Like I said, I still haven't decided if I want to split this off, because for so long this has been, you know, a commentary channel that I kind of don't want to split it off. At the same time, you know, gaming has become a big part of this channel as well. So, and check me out on Kick and on Rumble as well. It's going to be a lot of the same content. I'm going to edit what you saw earlier from that Fallout event, something a little bit shorter, and you know, edited together so that you don't have to watch the stream to check that stuff out. And I'll probably split it into shorter clips with that stuff. So yeah, thank you so much everybody for being here, and I hope you have a great week. So that's what I got. That's what I got. I'll be back on Thursday. The old man will be back. He's been gone for the weekend. He's been hanging out actually with my uncle, and they've been golfing and doing stuff, you know, hanging out. They're being bros, as bros do. So he'll be back. Maybe my uncle will be back for Fortnite on Thursday. That's why we didn't do a Thursday stream, since he was gone. I may be back on the Epic Verse stream with Josiah and Epic Mike that night. So the Thursday night streams may be starting a little bit earlier to accommodate that, if those guys are going to have me on. So you can find me there. Follow me at PR Pistolero on X, the Puerto Rican Pistolero everywhere else. And I'll be back for episode, I guess it'll be Unlucky 13 next week here at 7 p.m. So have a great week, everybody, and God bless. Ba-ba-da-ba-da. Ba-ba-da-ba-da. Ba-ba-ba-ba-da-ba-ba.